So today I am going to install this Natika front parking camera on my 1969 Camaro. And actually I got this off of Amazon. I'll put a link below. I did a lot of looking for different types of cameras. I'm actually doing 2 camera installs right now, one on the Humvee, and then I'm going to go ahead and do this one on the Camaro. This camera is really quite amazing. For less than $40, that's with shipping prime. It's unbelievable what you get. So just show you a couple things in the package. You get the camera. It's a nice piece. Everything is well marked. You get an adapter in here to mount it, and this is going to allow for some different options depending on what you're doing, including using this cover. And I'll show you here. The front of this unscrews, so you can actually drill a hole if you have a particular type of housing on your car, and push the camera through and tighten this up to make a nice escutcheon to trim it out. Or you can put this bracket in a variety of different ways on the camera and tighten it up. And there you go. You've got that ready to go. It comes with the 2 different mounting styles. It actually comes with a bit, a decent looking bit, to drill out the hole if you're going to put it through a trim panel. It comes with a tool to help you pop your trim panels out, or pick your teeth after dinner, or actually, it's a good back scratch too. So bonus, comes with some electric tape. It comes with a little piece of foam sticky to put in that bracket. Comes with zip ties. You can never go wrong with zip ties. And it comes with a bundle of wire. This will include your RCA jack that's going to your radio or to your video monitor. And it also has on here your power and your ground. It's my understanding you can also use this lead here that's right next to your RCA jack if you have a power out coming off of your, for example, your, I don't know, your radio or something that powers up that camera when you want to use it. So you've got a couple of options on there. These people thought of pretty much everything except one thing that I find a complaint with, and it's not a big complaint, but it's a complaint. We have, let's just gauge for a hole here. So at some point you're going to have to get this thing through your car, through your firewall. And let's see. We know that you have the size of the RCA input, and that is going to come in, well, in the King's Old English metric system. That is going to be a 31/64 that you'll have to drill that out to go through. However, kind of look through here. If this fellow right here is going to come through the firewall, let me see here. Yeah, so your 31/64 won't even fit for that guy. You're going to have to drop to a, ½ inch won't do it. So probably going to take about a 9/16 hole for your firewall, depending on how you install this. Now, what I'm going to do is put this end through the firewall, which means that I'll only have to cut the smaller hole, in this case the 31/64, to go through. So let's take a look inside the car and see what it is we're dealing with. Come on with me here. So you have more considerations than just where the wire is going to go. So I did some pre-fitting before I turned the camera on. And, you know, every car is going to be different. Even if it's the same car, you know, 69 Camaro to 69 Camaro, your wiring, your setup's going to be different. And my car has a gazillion wires in it because it has a LS engine. It has, you know, aftermarket gauges, power windows, power door locks, keyless entry, cruise control, yada, 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 yada. Got a lot of junk going on. But here's what I did do. On my Boss Audio head unit, this is the output lead for the front camera input. Actually even says it right on there, front camera input. So I snaggled that down and got it to where we can take a look at it. The other thing I did, on the side of this car, you kind of have like little kidney beans if you pull the front fenders off of it. And this panel here goes, it's a block off for the airflow that comes through the cowl panel. So they made it easy for me from this perspective. What I'm going to do is drill my hole in this panel in order to get from the inside of the car to the outside of the car. And I tell you what, this is something I've not even taken a look at since I built this car. It's been a long time. But that's going to get me through, that's going to get me up through this general area here, allow me to bring the wire around. So let's get to where we can get to drilling, because I'm going to punch the RCA through backwards this direction. So another access issue that I have, because I had to be Mr. Super Slick and put closeout panels all through this car and hide everything, it means anytime that I need to work on it, sorry about that. It means that anytime I need to work on it, I have to take lots of things out of the way. So these things made sense at the time, and I guess they look pretty cool, but it's a real pain to deal with. Fun fact, these closeout panels here actually are leftover fiberglass material that I had for a camper project I was doing. The backside was nice and smooth, so a little bit of epoxy and a bracket and matching paint, and I made a filler here so you don't have to look at all that stuff going on. Alright, so that gives me access to this side. My next issue is I have this panel here. Oh, you probably ought to see where I'm looking. My next access issue is this panel here is just flat in the way. I think I have nuts on the other side, and I don't think this is going to come off like this. And it's going to make this project really more time consuming than it needs to be to take this panel off. So the reality is, if I can fish something from the back here all the way through the front of the car, and I don't have to take this panel out, I'll be ahead of the game. Let me see what I can come up with. Okay, so I took a piece of welding wire. I may not be able to weld very well, but I do have welding wire. And I fished it through the grill, over the fender well, up into the top of the fender, and down into what I call the kidney bean there. And got it dropped inside the car. And so now what I'm going to do is take some of the tape that they supply with the kit, and here we go here. I'm going to tape it up tight. I'll try to sort of put it around here so it'll work its way in easy past any sharp edges, or I say sharp edges, but where it has to go over corners and stuff. And give it a tug. And what I have in here too is I have both the I have the power lead wire and ground and the RCA cable. So here it is in the grill. We're going to head back here into the car. Here we go. It's almost impossible to get any light in here, so if you can't see, I understand that you can't see. Alright. Let's go along, and I'm going to start gently pulling this. I can feel it meeting a little resistance in there. There we go. Still coming. And you know, I didn't disconnect the battery. That probably wasn't smart, because I got the fuse panel right here, and I got a big piece of MIG welding wire. Hey, look at that, guys. There it is. That's the end of it. So, the next thing is to get it to power and ground and get it plugged in here, and a few other things on this side. But let's take a look. Take a look out here, kind of what's going to happen next. There we are. We are now going up in the grill bumper. This is where it's going to get tricky too. Let's see, there's really no good way to get light, but I need to make this turn. I need to come through, need to come here behind the headlight, around the headlight. Here we go. We're going to want to come down through here and pick the other end of that up. So hang on while I pinch my fingers, and I already did scratch my hand up pretty bad, and get this to make the turn. All right, there's no good way to bring you in here, at least not by myself, but gonna try. Little piece of welding wire again. Little piece of welding wire. Here we go. Formed into a hook. And that that's allowed me to get through there. And here we go. Goodness gracious, they give you a lot of wire. All right, now, there we go. Now we're coming through. You gotta be careful when you're doing this, because you can chafe off the side of your wire with a sharp piece of metal. Believe me, there's plenty of sharp metal in here. That's it. Okay, we're through the grill. And now, okay, we are through the grill. And honestly, I'm going to leave this exterior hookup for last. Don't you know I got my flashlight stuck? There we go. So we are lots of spaghetti here. I'm gonna head back underneath for this part. So down here, basically we're going to snag power in the ground. Let's get this welding wire out. We're going to snag a power in the ground. That camera, there we go. So that camera can be activated when the key is on. It's right here. Now previously, any of you that watched my other videos saw that this is an ignition on that kicks the halogen lights up in the, not the halogen, the halos up front with a key on. And so I've got a power source right here, good, that I can get into. Shouldn't be a problem. And let's see what we've got here. I got to pull it nice and gentle. So power source is easy. Those are the shortest wires of the ones I have, is the ground and the power. Then the RCA cable, it's going to come apart here easily and get hooked up into the radio. There we go. That's it. Well, I guess I taped it up pretty well. The other thing too, let's see, these wires here we go. So these wires are going to have to get their business taken care of pretty quickly within this space. I don't have a lot of room. The RCA cable has more to it, and I can pull it through. We'll fish that in. So while you were just like sitting there a nanosecond ago watching my last segment, I've been busy. What I did is I took the power lead on the fused side of this 12-volt key-on accessory that I added on one of my last modifications, which was the halo lights on the car. And I soldered it in here and heat shrank it in place. And that plugs in over here, just like this. Boop. And so now we have 12-volt fused power to the camera for key-on excitement. The other thing I did, focus your attention right over here, I took the ground side and I soldered a lug on the end of it, and I attached it to a chassis ground that is right here in the car. Now, this little guy here is interesting, unrelated to our video. This is a vacuum to a canister that I have hidden in the car, and it explains why my cruise control has been acting wacky. So that's that. This wire, if you're like me, you're watching at home and you're saying, this guy's car is a rat's nest. Yeah, it is. But this wire here doesn't actually go to anything anymore. This was a spare that I had put in. The spare wire ultimately became my halo wire that I did. You'll see my other video when I put the LED lights on the car. This was pre-wired and it ran from the front of the car up into the instrument panel. And I had it as a spare in case I needed to add an accessory, and I did. And so it is just hanging there, and I'm going to leave it like that so it'll annoy people and they'll look down here and think that I've got a live wire loose on my car. But ultimately I could tug and tug and tug and just pull this all the way out because this doesn't go to anything on the other end. So with that being said, the camera now, let me switch over here. This is the camera lead for the front camera input. I've got it draped in my other rat's nest of wires, and they were kind enough to provide the electric tape, more than enough with the kit. And I'm actually going to tape that gap right there in it, and that'll help to hold it tight, keep everything in place, and there that is. So before we get too wrapped up with everything in the car, like all this panel, and I'm probably totally unrelated to this video, going to go back and pull my cruise control and get that plugged in, so I'll deal with that later. In the meantime, come on up front here. By the way, when you're heat shrinking, you use a torch like that up inside there. It's absolutely awesome. You know, make sure you got your full coverage insurance fully covering you, because you're going to need it. All right, so on this end, this is looped up wire that we're going to ultimately tie back out of the way. Let's go over here and take a look at the camera real quick. The camera, we're going to be making some modifications to its wiring. We'll talk about that later. But now we have to figure out how I'm going to mount it. I have choices in the mount. I could drill a hole. I could drill a couple holes in the bumper and mount it like that. I could also bore a hole in the license plate, which I think would be pretty cool. Have this sticking out like an eyeball out of the license plate. Putting it up here would be silly. I think it'd be silly. It wouldn't I wouldn't have a lot to screw it into, and it would really stick out. So it's going to need to go here on the bumper or drill through the plate. So you can decide what you think I'm going to do. I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so here's the part, you know, on any of this, you really don't want to drill holes in your car if you can help it, for a lot of reasons, right? Technology changes and parts fail and whatnot, and getting a 1969 Camaro bumper, you know, is high dollar and all that, but at the same time, we got to make this work the best way we can make it work. So this is my idea. Let's go ahead and put it on the bottom side of the bumper here. I think it's a good spot. But what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and take the camera out of the bracket. Showed you this earlier. Super slick. Super, super, super slick. We're going to set this aside for the moment. And I'm going to get a little brake cleaner and clean this really well. I'll clean the back side of this bracket. And then I'll find some, this thing came with some little double sticky sided tape stuff. I'll grab that. It'll take me a minute to get it peeled. Okay. There we go. Windstorm is raging outside right now. You probably, I'm sure you cannot hear it on the camera, but really taking a beating. And since I moved here to Alaska, I thought all the wind in the entire world started in Illinois, and I do believe it does. But we live in a valley here, and this valley takes a beating from the wind. So, all right. Now this is the part, I can bend and twist this thing a little bit after the fact. But this is the part here that really matters. And really, I just got to kind of get my ichrometer straight and set this thing in place. Doesn't look terrible. I actually feel pretty good about that. Here's the thing. That's gonna fall off eventually. And if I lose the camera, that'll be dumb, because then I'll have all these wires that I just put in the car hooked to nothing. So I'm gonna go ahead and run a zip screw in this bumper. Maybe, maybe not. See if I can get this to start. Chrome can be very difficult to get a screw going in it. That one went in though. I'm gonna actually pull him out, swap this with this one, because I think, there you go, that one had a sharper cutting blade on it. think that looks pretty good. And the good news is there's a little bit of slop on this thing. You can actually adjust the bracket just a little bit. Okay. There we go. It's on. That's it. Not going anywhere. Now, if you're still with me, if you haven't dozed off to sleep yet, you can pretty soon. Almost done. So here's our up mark on it. And drop him in. We're going to set that up. Tighten it down. Now I'm really tired of drilling holes in my car. So I'm going to try to do here, I'm going to tuck this wire and run it through. I'll show you here. I'm going to try to tuck the wire and run it through this portion of the car. My idea is just to quit drilling holes in the old car. You know, the old girl says, that's enough, you know? So what's nice is I can put a little zip tie on it right here, and that should keep it. And by the way, they provided zip ties in our kit. So we're gonna grab that, put a zip tie on it. Folks, I don't have the Ronas, at least I don't think I have the Ronas, but I've been sick the last couple days. You know, back when people used to get the flu like normal, or a cold, I've definitely had it. And it's no fun. Okay. There we go. So, what I do is, try to get this to cooperate a little bit more, and zip tie that down good and tight. Here's my other end. There it is. And I'm not gonna cut those off just yet. I always like to do that when I think the job is done. Start cutting things. All right. And if you saw what I'm seeing in here, you'd say to yourself, that's a mess. All right, so we're just gonna do a little zip tie up here. It's interesting on this car, the grill is pretty open, and you can see through the grill when it's coming down the road, and you can see things behind it. And I used to have the grill with the core support painted red to match the car, and I should have never done that. So when I recently did some more work on it, I'm gonna bring it up here so you can see what I'm doing. I am just bringing this wire up to the top here, so I keep it out of that visual I was just telling you about. All right, makes a good spot. There we go. Okay. Now, before we get too happy about testing things, I have to be aware I got a lot of wire here. And I haven't made the final connection yet. So this is our wire out here, lots of it. And then this is the wire that I was just working on. We're going to go in here and we're going to just press it together. And then let's take this excess here, plenty of it. I'm going to loop this up into something nice and neat. There we go. All right. lot of extra wire, guys. But this camera, you could mount this camera, you know, in a van. You could mount it in a boat. You could mount it in a, you know, in a full-size truck, long wheelbase, etc. And you've got enough wire here to get the job done, which is nice. It's also nice on this car that I've got the little hideaway covers, because I can literally hide it away behind the covers. Okay, so we're going to talk about these here in just a minute. We'll talk about that after we test something out. All right, let's fire up this Boss radio unit. I'll agree, and look at that. So that's the camera that we just installed, and what you don't know sitting at home is this image is backwards. But let's check and make sure the things are working. So this will be our rear camera. I'm going to slide the car in reverse. That is automatic. There it is. That's the Humvee sitting behind us. A little battery charger on the car. So that is good. Go back and forward. And we're going to go to front camera. And there it is. So I just wanted to give that a quick check before we wrapped everything up too much. And it looks like it's working. So we can go to camera, front mode, good to go. All set. One other thing that I'll tell you is that when you're setting this thing up, you have to actually go into the camera system and you have to enable the front camera. Okay, if you don't enable it, it's not going to turn it on. This is front camera power. Remember I was showing you there's that extra wire that's on the RCA jack. There's a wire output on the back of the radio I could have hooked into, and if I power that up, it kicks on the front camera power, but I wired it the other way so I could fuse it into my other connection, so that's fine. So on this Boss radio, you have to enable it. Once you enable it, then you're all set. Camera, and there's my front view. All right. So here's the important stuff, that if you use this, so that camera can be used in the front or rear, but you have to have a mirror image, right, if it's going to be in the rear. So what we're doing to use as a forward camera, please cut the white wire loop. Also tells you to cut the green wire loop to remove the distance guidelines. I'm going to leave them for now. They don't bother me. You also can cut the purple wire loop to choose AHD 720p signal output. I don't know what the output is that this radio is after, so I'm not going to worry about that. But what I want to show you is that the wire that they're talking about, we're going to cut the white wire, and that one, there we go. So this is the, when they talk about that, this is the wire they're talking about. So if I cut this, it's now going to, that's going to stop the mirror image, and then I'm going to do here, so go ahead and run some tape with this tape they supplied. Keep these wires separated from each other. And again, the guidelines, they don't bother me, and I think they're handy because when I learn where those guidelines are in relation to the car, then I've got an idea how close I can park things to it. Okay? So that is those wires. I'm going to go ahead and tape this guy off. Just try to help keep moisture out. We took all the time to install this camera. We don't want to have to redo it because water got into the line. Okay, so now I don't need access to that any longer. I've got my little pocket back here, and I can start with the reassembly of the car. Thing includes things like this goofy plate that I put in that I was telling you about before. See how nice that is? Suddenly just made that entire rat nest of wires disappear. How nice is that? All right, I'm gonna go inside the car and tidy everything else up. I still have to figure out where the other end of my vacuum line is for my cruise control. That is my problem, not yours. I will deal with that, and then we'll just test this thing out a little bit and get some idea how well it works. Quick wrap up. So we installed the Natika camera. Again, this camera comes with options. You can mount it using the bracket, or you can mount it using this trim piece that closes up within some, it makes a bezel that'll go over the camera and snap it right into your panel. If you have some kind of, like at one point I thought about actually drilling through the license plate and putting it in the plate. Did a little research on that. It is not necessarily illegal to do that, drill a hole in your plate. Again, it comes with this incredibly nifty bit, and that allows you to use that way. The instructions, they're pretty clear. A lot of these, I've installed products like this in the past, and you kind of have to read through them a little bit. I believe they're probably translated from another language to English in some cases. So, but the instructions are pretty well done. Their customer service is also good. They're quick to help you out if you have any questions or concerns. Let's take a little final look. Yep, car's covered in dust, I admit. But there you go. You got the camera sitting out front. It's not super noticeable, but if you focus in, you'll see it right down there. Now, just a quick connection as well. The backup camera on this car is from Amazon, and it's the company E10ACP. I really like these cameras because they mount to your tags really quick, and they've got a ratchet type adjustable mount so that the camera is able to pivot, and these work really well. I haven't had any issues. It's got a backup light that comes on, some bright LED lights. This thing works really, really well. I couldn't find the same version of this to go. I mean, obviously I could buy another one of these and mount it to the tag in the front. That would be easy peasy. But I don't see where they have the mirroring where you have to cut the wire or change it so that it's not a reverse image. That's the big benefit of this camera from Natika, is that it has the reverse image capability. You could use it as a back camera or a front camera. And again, just we'll check it out real quick. Here we go. The Boss Elite is powering up, and as it comes online, if we're driving the car and we want to, we're just riding around listening to music or whatever, that's fine. And we're pulling in the driveway and I'm getting in the garage and it's going to be a tight squeeze. I can just reach down and the auto toggle is that front camera. So we can see that in a moment's notice. Again, that's the furthest forward point on the car. I'm going to walk out there while you stay in here, and we'll get an idea exactly what it can see. So I'm walking in. This is a 4-foot measure. I'm going to drop it right at the camera now. All right, so that is a 4-foot yardstick there. That's a a level block and everything, and you can essentially see what would amount to 4 feet of view out the front of the car, and it's a real good distance to know where you can park and not park. So take me a little bit of time to figure out exactly what my space is off this block here. Help me park this thing in some super tight spots. So hey, the camera is fantastic. Didn't take long. I think the hardest part, obviously, is finding a way to fish it through your car. And there she sits up in the front end, and it's got a great view. That was our measuring point. Pretty happy with it. I would definitely recommend it if you're looking for a front camera that has multiple mounting options for flexibility. And thanks for watching. I've got another camera set up, very similar products with a different type of screen for my Humvee. We'll talk about that one a little bit more in a different video. So thanks for watching. Appreciate the support, and go out there and make something happen.